The Culture Pop Podcast is brought to you by the law offices of Jacob Emrani.
Accident or injury, call Jacob Emrani. Call Jacob.
Hey, it's Mase. If you or a friend or loved one is injured in an accident, the first person you should call is my friend Jacob. When I did this, Jacob was great. He helped me by talking through the next steps, which really put my mind at ease. When you're injured in an accident, you got to have an expert. That's why you call Jacob, just like I did. Call Jacob, 844-24-JACOB. That's 844-24-JACOB, or visit calljacob.com.
Call Jacob.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Culture Pop Podcast. I'm Steve Mason along with Sue Kolinsky. This is the show where we talk about everything happening in the world of pop culture. Great guest today. It is stand-up comedian / actor / talk show host Jay Mohr. He's going to join us. In the meantime, Sue Ballou, I have not talked to you since you completed your triathlon. What was the experience like?
It was great. It was more charged than the first one because there were so many more people there.
Oh, really?
There were thousands of people there.
Wow.
And everything was kind of similar, except the swim was 250 meters longer, which was great. Although, everybody is swimming freestyle.
Freestyle, sure.
Right? So every now and then someone may do breaststroke. They tell you that if you get tired, if your breathing is labored, to do the backstroke.
Okay.
So like maybe 5 minutes in, some woman is swimming, weaving in and out diagonally.
Oh, no.
Backstroke, right?
Oh, really?
She couldn't see where she was going, and she just was weaving all over the place. And so it was disruptive, but as soon as I got past her, it was pretty smooth sailing. And the bike was the same distance, 12 and a half miles, but there were hills because she went over the bridge by the Queen Mary.
Right.
And so that was 4 times on that. And that was very, very challenging. And it was hot.
Yeah.
But it was exhilarating and great. And I cannot wait to do the next one.
You're going to do another one.
Oh, God. I could do another one next weekend. I mean,
Really? You're just going to keep doing them?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Till you win one?
Well,
do one
I
until
think I
you
started
win.
it a little late. Well, it's one of those things. I'm so invested. I bought the wetsuit. I bought the cool triathlon backpack. I got a lot of the clothes. I am so locked in, and I crave it. It's like a drug.
It's funny. I feel the same about working out now, because I get sore when I don't work out. It's like it's like a reverse. I get sore when I haven't hit the gym. But good for you. I'm excited for you. That's great. I can't wait for the next one. What about the sharks? No sharks?
They're so out of my head. It's like flying. Oh, aren't you afraid you're going to crash? Yeah, maybe we will. But you know what? I can't think about that kind of stuff. And no matter how much you put it in my head.
Right. You got to be especially careful about the orcas. The orcas are the scary ones. They're taking down ships and shit. I mean,
that's
seriously.
Right. They just did recently.
They did. I know. So, Sue Ballou, there's been a lot going on. We haven't talked. This is really maybe the longest break we've had in a really long time. I think 2.5 or something weeks. And by the time this comes out, the Olympics will be over. But what have you thought of the Olympics?
I've been really, really enjoying it. And because I've been swimming so much.
Yep.
The swimming has been, because I look at it so much differently now. I mean,
Sure.
I'm really watching how they glide through the water. And it's mind-boggling how fast they go. It's been great. And even the golf. I mean, I don't know if you saw the golf match.
No, I didn't. Was this the one that
Scheffler won?
Scheffler won, right.
But Jon Rahm was up 5 strokes or 6 strokes on like the 13th or 14th hole.
Yep.
And he just imploded because I saw that Scheffler won. And I looked at the scores prior to that and I was like, how did Rahm lose this? So I went back to watch it. And it was, I mean, I was really sad for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
But of course, it was great that an American won a gold medal. And
Yeah,
Scheffler, Scheffler's just insanely good.
Yeah, he really is. He really is.
Yeah.
I do think I will watch anything during the Olympics. I've just put it on, and I don't care if it's archery or it's fencing or it's canoeing or whitewater raft, whatever it is. I'm like totally in on it, and I'm really excited. You know, I've done 7 Olympic Games, broadcasted 7 Olympic Games, and this is the first time I can remember when it feels like everybody is excited and watching and engaged. Like normally the guys I work with, Ireland, Bergman, those guys, they bag on the Olympics. No, they're all in on the Olympics. Did you see Noah Lyles win the 100 meters?
I didn't. I saw his first run, his preliminary I saw, and I felt bad for him because he didn't. I mean, obviously he made it into the finals, but his time wasn't the greatest. And I was like, oh, this guy may be in trouble. So I'm so glad he won. And I heard he won by a hair, right?
Yeah, no, he won by, you know, they measure not the foot or the leg or anything. It's when the torso goes over, and he leaned at exactly the right time and won by 5 thousandths of a second. 5 thousandths of a second, which is, I think, by snap, that's more than 5 thousandths of a second. Do you think? Like, that's more.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's those moments, and I'm going to go back to the golf match because Matsuyama, what's his name? Matsuyama, I think his name is. He got the bronze. Matsuyama.
Yeah.
So he missed probably 5 putts by like this much. I mean, it was just insane.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. You know, it was a game of not even inches.
Yeah.
And he would have won.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
So we've watched some TV stuff, and I kind of wanted to start with Presumed Innocent, which is the Jake Gyllenhaal series. I absolutely loved this show. I thought Ruth Negga as his wife was fantastic. Bill Camp as the grizzled old attorney. I love that guy as an actor. And Peter Sarsgaard as Tommy Molto. He was on a mission to put Rusty Savage away. What did you think of the finale of Presumed Innocent and of the show overall?
I really liked the show, and I'm glad that my sometimes long-term memory isn't there because I forgot the movie. I mean, I remember seeing it. I remember seeing it with Harrison Ford and Greta Sashi, and I remember really liking it, but I had no idea who did it. So it was a crazy twist. I mean, I was completely shocked.
I am pretty sure that the wife did it in the movie and in the book, and then they switched it up with the daughter in the limited series. And I was surprised. I didn't expect that. I thought there were any of like 6 people that could have done it. It was like it was such a great setup for a finale because you just didn't know. Now they're going to do a season 2. I don't know what a season 2 looks like for Presumed Innocent.
I was shocked. I mean, it's not like, oh, are they going to find out that the daughter did it? I mean, is that what happens in the next season?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like, is he defending his daughter from the murder, or is it just a whole new case and he's prosecuting it from the district? Or what if he becomes the district attorney? Something like that. Although, no, guys accused of murder don't become the district attorney, I guess.
But it's like, if they stray and it's a new story, you kind of feel like, who cares? I mean, in a way.
It's true. It's true.
So yeah. I think of what was left undone, you know, what story can they tell that actually relates to
maybe it won't relate.
Discovered.
That's the only thing I can think. Maybe it doesn't relate and it's an entirely new case, which is possible, but we don't know right now. House of the Dragon had its finale. Sue, I'm just gonna not give my reaction and listen to yours. I love when we do this. Tell me what you thought of the finale of House of the Dragon.
I mean, I liked it up until the end. I was very disappointed. It was very unsatisfying. It's kind of a pet peeve of mine, and it happens a lot of times in films where they go to black, and it's like, all right, are they going to black and then they're going to continue? Oh no, the credits are coming on.
Yes.
You got to be kidding me. It's like you took me on a ride blindfolded to a destination that you promised me I was going to see, and then we get there and I never see it.
Yes.
And it was we know that war is coming. We know winter's coming.
The sides are set up.
We know that. So there was no cliffhang. And it's going to be a couple of years until we see this. And it's like, that is what you're leaving us with? It's like, damn, I didn't get dessert,
Yeah, I am in complete agree. I thought it was such a disappointing finale because it didn't lead to anything. Like all this entire season was leading up to war. Now we got to wait 2 years to see the war. And what I read is that HBO, or Max, I guess now, said you can only do 8 episodes. That's all we're going to pay for is 8 episodes. So that means number 9 was the battle, and number 10 was the war sort of resolution, the aftermath of it. And they just decided to put those in the next year without giving us, as you said, dessert or some kind of big fight at the end. I mean, there's Aemond, he's on Vhagar. There's Aegon, he's leaving Westeros and maybe wants to come back as the king. There's Rhaenyra, she's found dragon riders. Daemon has sworn his allegiance. So we're all teed up for a battle, for a war, and now we got to wait 2 years for it. I was very disappointed. It was unbelievably unsatisfying.
Yeah, and I was reading about, they were talking about the strike, whether the strike affected the scripts, and they said they didn't affect the scripts, but they did affect rewrites and revisions. So if there were going to be, maybe it would have been different. I don't know, but they didn't have the budget for it.
Yeah. And all that stuff moves to season 2. Whose side are you on? Rhaenyra or Aemond?
Oh, Rhaenyra, for sure.
Yeah, for sure, Rhaenyra.
I hate Aemond.
Yeah, Aemond is scary. He's a scary, weird character.
He is vile. And, although Aegon, is diminished, I kind of feel a little sorry for him, but he was a piece of shit too.
He was awful.
Yeah.
He was an awful king. Yeah. So anyways, that's very disappointing. All round bummer. Although I still am completely into the show.
Oh yeah, of course.
I can't wait to see where it goes, but I just got to wait a long time. All right. Last thing I wanted to bring up is I found Neilson is now doing an original streaming chart. Like the way they would with TV ratings, they're now doing with streaming shows. So, for example, the number 1 streaming show on television right now is Your Honor, which is incredible to me because it was on Showtime. It did well, but it was on Showtime. Now all of a sudden it pops onto Netflix and it becomes this gigantic hit, number 1 streaming show on TV. I was texting with Bryan Cranston about it, and he says it's up to Netflix on whether there's going to be a season 3, but it may be now that there's a season 3 because it did so well, seasons 1 and 2 on Netflix.
Well, that's what happens. Look at what happened with Suits.
Suits is now going to get a reboot in LA. So maybe Your Honor is going to get a reboot. Number 2, and this is a case of when shows go to Netflix, they find a whole new audience. Dexter is number 2 on Netflix right now. A show that I never watched. Did you watch it?
I watched a few.
I heard it's good.
It's good. It's gory. It's very disturbing, but he is amazing.
Yeah, he's a great actor. Number 3 is The Bear. Did you finish The Bear?
I did not.
Oh, so good. The last episode, I absolutely loved. It's the opposite of House of the Dragon. I loved the final episode. And look forward to that show. Number 4 is The Boys on Prime Video. This is apparently just a crazy ass show, kind of like a bunch of half-rate superhero types are out there causing trouble. And that's on Prime Video. Then Bridgerton, which I don't watch.
I don't watch it.
Because I'm not a woman.
Hey, wait a minute.
But Bridgerton, I think, appeals to older women, does it not?
I'm an older woman. No,
oh yeah.
I watched the second season, and I watched it because I watched it because we had a cast member on.
Yes, I think we did. Yeah.
Okay. Ashley, right? Is that her name?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ashley. Yeah, I can't think of her name, but yes, you're right.
And it actually was fun. It was a guilty pleasure type of show, but not enough for me to continue.
I'm not guilty. Not guilty. All right. Bluey is next. Do you watch Bluey?
I don't even know what Bluey is.
Of course you don't. It's on Disney Plus. It's for little kids. Number 7, House of the Dragon. Number 8, and again, this is one of those ones, Grey's Anatomy on Netflix.
Oh, wow.
Which I honestly think it's still on the air. I think it's like season 25 of Grey's Anatomy. Like the Ellen Pompeo left. She said, I'm just bored with this whole thing. I've been doing this for so long. How many different people need operations? Family Affair is something that is on Netflix. It's not what you're thinking of or I'm thinking of.
Oh, The Affair?
No, I was thinking of
Family Affair with Buffy and Jodie.
Exactly. It's not that one. And then Family Guy on Hulu. So those are the top 10. Your Honor, Dexter, The Bear, The Boys, Bridgerton, Bluey, House of the Dragon, Grey's Anatomy, Family Affair, and Family Guy. And they measure, by the way, in minutes viewed. So like, for example, Your Honor this week has 1.58 billion minutes viewed. So that's what's number 1. They're measuring it instead of total eyeballs. It's the amount of time that people are actually tuning in and watching of the show. But I think it's interesting that we finally know like what's doing really well and what's not doing really well on streaming.
So if you watch for a couple of minutes, does that count?
Counts as a couple of minutes.
That's it. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I wonder, because, sometimes I'll watch something for 5 minutes and say, meh.
Yeah, you chalked up 5 minutes for that show, but only 5 minutes.
Right. Right.
I actually weirdly am in the middle of season 2 for Your Honor. I've not seen the entire show yet.
How could you not? You're friends with Bryan Cranston.
No,
it's such a great show.
It's on my list. I am going to finish it.
But what's your reason for not watching it when it came out? That's like you. I mean, look, we've been friends a really long time.
Yes, we have.
And that's like you not watching like a show that I was in.
Yeah, I know, but he's not going to know because he doesn't. I hope he doesn't listen to this podcast or watch this podcast. But I will finish it, and it is a great show. I mean, the cast in that, Hope Davis and Michael Stuhlbarg, and I mean, obviously Brian. It's such a great cast. So no, I will finish it. But weirdly, I am in the middle of season 2.
Well, the next time he comes on the show, you have to admit that you just started watching it.
Well, I'll be done by then.
I may out you.
I won't have to cop to it. Hey, I wanted to let everybody know, if you're watching this show right now, please subscribe to the channel, the Culture Pop Podcast YouTube channel. You can leave us a comment, review, give us the big thumbs up. If you are listening on Apple or Spotify, please subscribe to the show, then leave us a 5-star rating and a review. We love it when you do that, guys. Thank you very much for being out there. In the meantime, our guest today is a stand-up comedian, Saturday Night Live alum, talk show host, and actor. He made his feature film debut in Jerry Maguire. Since then, he's appeared in movies like Suicide Kings, Are We There Yet?, and The Incredible Burt Wonderstone. On television, he starred in the series Gary Unmarried, was a regular on Ghost Whisperer. He hosted his own talk show on ESPN, and he also did his own nationally syndicated sports radio show. Jay Mohr joins us. Jay, thanks a lot for coming on, man. How you been?
I've been great. And wow, I haven't seen Sue in 30 years.
The last time we saw each other was when you came on our radio show in New York.
Yeah,
so that was probably probably around 20 something years ago.
Yeah. apparently I didn't represent myself well there. Mase had a big resentment against me for years, and only he knew about.
Yeah, right. It was a one-sided. I had a one-sided war with you. And it was that you had gone on Opie and Anthony and said something about us, and I was like, "Oh, fuck him!" Going on Opie and Anthony and saying that's what it came down to.
I remember that.
Well, I'm very glad you specified, because I didn't know why, and I was completely had no idea, because I genuinely have always liked you, and I've genuinely always liked Sue. But I can also see me doing that because there was a time in my life where that mob mentality, when you get in a room with these guys and they're crap talking somebody, it's like, yeah. And that was a big defective character of mine. So I was like, is there any way I can make it up to you, Steve? As I was talking.
No, I by the way, it was all in my head. I should have let it go a long time ago, but I hold a bitter grudge sometimes. So we let that go
to keep her from barking.
Oh, yeah, I got one of those too.
18 years old.
Oh, hi.
18 years old.
How old?
18.
I've got one that's 18 also.
A Yorkie?
Yeah, no, not a Yorkie. I've got a Beagle who's 18 years old. She turned 18 in July.
Beagles roam around.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
what's her name?
Mabel.
She's very cute. 18 is amazing. She must be unbelievably cared for, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we take a nap every day.
Nice.
Wear little sweaters to keep her organs warm. And now the dog gets 18 and your entire life revolves around the communication with your wife or your husband, whatever, about who pooped and when.
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
You have 3 dogs. It's like, well, Ellie, May, and Birdie pooped. Mabel didn't poop, but Mabel pooped, but she pooped early, so you didn't have to. The whole house revolves around 3 dogs taking a swat.
Right. Well, that's exactly. I woke up to take my dog out at like 3:00 in the morning, and actually woke my husband up and said, "Oh, Maxwell just took a shit."
I asked her why she shit in my bed. She said it was a joke.
Oh, yeah, a joke. Was that like an Amber Heard thing?
Sure. Oh, what a great file. So this is the podcast. So like, what are we doing?
Well, we're going to BS a little bit. I was actually going to ask you, what you were growing up in Jersey. Sue, I'm sure, was an unbelievably funny kid. I would guess you were a funny kid. Were you a funny kid? Where'd you get your funny from?
I think I was funny, but it was kind of like an unbroken horse. It was just a wild colt. It was, every photo had like a stupid face in it. It was always, I'm insatiable. Like, I had good parents. I was just an insatiable kid. And like, my first addiction is your approval. If you don't think I'm fantastic, I don't know how to act. And I'm just going to keep filling your cup to fit in with you. Like, whatever you like. Oh, you own movie theaters? Let's talk cinema. You're a comic. You like jazz. You like art. So I just kept filling that classic, like, chameleon, which is probably pretty exhausting. So I wasn't funny. I was bananas. I was annoying. Like, because Sue's like a better joke writer than me. So I can see Sue, I can see you being like funny, like low pro, like assassin funny. I can see Sue like waiting and picking her spots, whereas I hit for average.
But like in school, did you get in trouble in school? Because I had a big mouth in class. I got in trouble in class quite a bit.
Yeah, I was always in detention, and it was always for saying something. That extra sentence, like always saying something stupid, always getting them. Like what we wind up getting paid for. That thing like, oh, let's have Sue in the room. Sue's always good for that. She'll punch it up for us. Like now it's our only source of revenue. It's the reason we eat well. But back in the day, it was like, geez, Maron, can we have this kid be quiet for 1 second?
You went to SNL. I think we knew you when you were first on SNL. Me and Ireland, you came onto our TV show when we were on Fox Sports West. And I remember repeatedly making you do the Christopher Walken impression. And I would contend that you invented the Christopher Walken impression. And now we all do an impression of Jay doing Christopher Walken. Does that sound right?
Yeah, it sounds about right. It's fun to do. Well, You know, the guy I saw do it, Sue probably knows, Roger Kabler, was talk about like an unbroken horse. I saw him do it on a showcase for somebody. It was here in LA. It was at the Whiskey or something. And he had a showcase and he did all these impressions, and he did like a Christopher Walken, but it was kind of wild. And Kabler was like wild. He was like a wild animal, like, wow. But you don't know you can do an impression unless you see somebody do it.
That is exactly it.
Yeah, like when whoever's running for president, you have no idea how to do that impression. Then somebody goes on Hollywood Squares and does like George Bush Sr., and you're like, oh, that's how you do it. And then you just copy that person.
It's unbelievable because I don't know if you remember, but when I first started doing stand-up, I did impressions. But maybe by the time we met, I started out as an impressionist. Oh, so I used to watch Rich Little and Frank Gorshin, and that's how and David Fry, and those were the guys. That was my education into doing every voice I ever did.
Is Frank Gorshin, I'll say, maybe the most underrated performer that's ever lived?
Oh, God. Well, he transformed himself. I mean, his Burt Lancaster, he looked like not too far off from what Jim Carrey used to do, because he transformed himself.
But there's always Jim Carrey there's always, he can't.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, Frank Gorshin doing like Alec Guinness and like all these people you didn't know, talk about people you didn't know you could imitate. And like his Kirk Douglas, his whole face.
His whole face. I remember laugh. The laugh, it was like, I remember the laugh.
Before the Beatles or after the Beatles? No, before the Beatles.
He's before the Beatles, right? Because I know him from Batman. What didn't he play?
The Riddler.
Riddler.
The Riddler. That's right. He played the Riddler on Batman.
So he was so good. He went on, I think, before the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show and somehow killed. Like killed when everybody knows the Beatles are coming out. And then it was like a husband and wife puppet team, like Topo and something. They went on.
Topo Gigio.
Topo Gigio. Is it Topo? Not Topo. He was the mouse. No, Topo Gigio was the mouse. Eddie, kiss me goodnight.
It was definitely a husband and wife with like weird pudgy bodies and paint on their bellies. And I saw the Beatles.
Was it Shields and Yarnell?
I have no idea.
Oh, the mimes. Yeah.
The mimes?
The mimes, Shields and Yarnell.
But I went to the Museum of Television a long time ago and I watched the Beatles' first Sullivan appearance at the Museum of Television. And then I watched that couple come out after the Beatles. And I turned to my friend. I said, they're even bombing now. It's like they're bombing ad infinitum. Like they'll never not. It's amazing.
So you did go to Saturday Night Live, and afterwards you wrote a book called Gasping for Airtime, 2 years in the trenches of Saturday Night Live. And it was a challenging period in your life. It was a challenging time on SNL. What was that period of your life like?
I have no ill will at all towards Saturday Night Live, anyone there, Lorne Michaels, the problem was obviously me and my ego and my way of dealing with there's no explanation. There's like, if you go to IKEA and buy a table, first of all, when you go to IKEA, there's spots that are, you know where to park at IKEA. Then you go into IKEA, you ask somebody, where do I go get tables? They'll point you to the table area. Then you go, where do I buy this? And at SNL, nothing, just borderlands nothing, because everybody's just in their own world. And every conversation's like, as somebody's walking by to do something really important. So nobody's going to stop and say, okay, this is where you hand in a sketch. I didn't have a computer, and everybody's writing sketches on computers. And me and David Tell had yellow legal pads and pencils. And then you're done with a sketch at 2 a.m. But where do I put it? And it's like, oh, you got to give it to Claire. It's like, well, who the fuck is Claire? Like, what? Well, Claire went home, but she'll be back at noon. It's like, well, it's 2. Do I go? Like, everything was, I had no idea. And the way I could have healthily dealt with it is just follow the little bit of advice I got from guys like Jim Downey, where he told me, when you go around to everybody's office and do your impressions for them in their offices. But I was like, I'm a big shot. I'm not going door to door like a, Kirby vacuum cleaner, brush salesman. But that's exactly what I should have done, But the experience itself at Saturday Night Live, to this day, if something needs to be rewritten, I know I have that pedigree, and it is, you just know when something's too long. You just know where something needs to come out, and you know where this person can do that person's line. There is an actual mathematics to writing. And I learned that there somehow through all my own drinking.
Well, I would also think that the transition from being a stand-up and going into something like that, because as stand-ups, we were our own boss. We were funny. We knew what to do, and then to be thrown into an environment where you're with other people who were veterans on the show and also really, really funny. I'm sure that was that like an uncomfortable transition in some ways.
Yeah, it was the first time since like being on a wrestling team, the first time I was asked to just play well with others, and it was a brand new skill set. That's why I was never good at improv. Remember, Sue, down at the Village Gate, there'd be improv groups like New York Talk and stuff, and they'd be like, "Come on out with us," and I would always just turn to the audience to do like a soliloquy, and they're like, "That's not how it works." It was just a whole new muscle. But that's exactly, Sue's right. Like you're just so used to controlling every variable that you can control, and then you just show up. I mean, there's a building. I never worked in a building before. I have to go. I have a fob for an elevator. I didn't know what a fob was. There's 2 elevators? I don't know. Like, everything was foreign. And also, I got hired with Sarah Silverman, Norm Macdonald, 𝐈𝐧𝐭𝐡. So we were like the freshmen, and everybody else had been there 4 years. So like Spade, Farley, Sandler, Tim Meadows, and Schneider, they had all been like this crew going, and you can't fault them for it, because I see it in my life now. Like, just, I hang out at this place all the time, and a new guy shows up. So yeah, it was an incredible experience that I have romanticized doing again at 53 years old, and go like, oh, I would kill it.
I have another question to ask you, because I think so many people don't know the journey that we take as comedians. You go into a club, you're a new comic there, and you start out as a late night comic, which means that you just hang out. You don't have a spot. You hope that maybe someone doesn't show up. Someone who's been there longer than you does not show up, or someone who's higher on the ladder than you. And a lot of times you go there night after night after night. It's kind of like being on the bench, or being a DH. You don't know when you're gonna get up. So I would think that it probably had a little bit of that feeling to it too, huh? Yeah,
that's very insightful. When I remember going, I think where I met you was Catch a Rising Star, where I was the standby comic. Whereas if somebody was late coming from downtown, Steve, it's like, okay, we'll put up the guy that does 10 minutes just in case Jon Stewart is coming late from downtown.
Right.
And most of the time you don't get on stage, like Sue said. And so then you hang out at all these places, and you hang out, and then you become successful as a stand-up, and then you're being asked to go back to that mentality, and it's like, no, I did it already. But that's what everybody did, though. You just got to get over yourself and just do it.
Weren't you battling panic attacks too, from what I understand? I mean, and so I read an article that said Sarah Silverman was instrumental in sort of helping you confront
saved my life.
Panic attacks.
Yeah, well, I wasn't battling panic attacks. That would insinuate that I had some battle back. And I want to differentiate anxiety from panic. Anxiety is stimulus response. Your boss is an asshole, so you get that grumble in your stomach on your way to work because you know you're going to see your boss. That makes sense. Panic attack makes no sense. It's a life-saving level of adrenaline and endorphins released into your system for no reason. You're in the shower, you notice your towels hanging on the rack, and then, whoa, you're in it. Your insides want to be on your outsides. But yeah, I was having panic attacks, and I went home. I ran home from 30 Rock to St. Mark's Place. I jogged because I thought I was having a heart attack. So you might as well run the streets of New York City.
Sure.
Yeah. And I remember I had 𝐈𝐧𝐭𝐷 in my medicine cabinet. I called my mom, who's a nurse, and I'm like, should I take this? She goes, take it, Jesus. So I took it. And then I had that euphoria of feeling normal again. I went back to work, and I was explaining to Sarah what had happened. And she goes, oh, you're having a panic attack. You have to go see my doctor, Dr. Taylor. She's the best. And I was like, okay. And she gave me the number. It was during Saturday Night Live. I just wasn't in any sketches. I called the lady. She called me back. We made an appointment that I would see her the next day at a hospital. I forget which hospital, but her office was in a hospital. And she prescribed me Klonopin, 1 milligram of Klonopin. I took one. I waited an hour, and then I slept for 4 hours all of a sudden. And then it just started to go away. And so, yeah, there's a whole wonderful world of psychopharmacology out there. Because the thing is, we want to fix it ourselves.
Sure.
So what the doctor told me is like, she goes, what are your qualifications for adjusting brain chemistry? You have none. But you feel like a failure. Like, she goes, well, if you had bronchitis, you'd come in here, I'd give you amoxicillin or whatever. You wouldn't question it. But when it's the brain, your ego
Sure.
yeah.
Well, I know a lot of comics who, one in particular who I dated for a long time, who you knew, Kenny Ober, and he had, he would, I didn't know if he was bipolar, but he suffered from depression. Anyway, he was so afraid to take any kind of medication because he was so nervous that it was going to change the dynamic of who he was as a comedian. Because as you remember, Kenny, his comedy was very dark and he was so irreverent. And he thought that was all going to go away if he took medication.
That's probably really common. When you're having a panic attack, you don't think you're dying, you are dying. So whatever is going to keep me from this feeling, I didn't have any pushback about it. It was like, it's insane. You're dying.
Yeah.
It's panic. You're panicking for no reason. It's so confounding. But I had that on the show, and then my doctor explained to me, this doctor really was the best. Sarah was right. And I'll always love her for hooking me up with Dr. Taylor, Noelle Taylor. She said it's most common in actor comedians and interns at hospitals. You go from the structure of medical school, and then all of a sudden you're in the triage unit, and everything's just, there's no structure, and it's chaos, and it's this, and you just feel like you're free falling. But it's a neurological glitch. But when I went to rehab in 2021, oddly, Klonopin was the only drug I never abused. So I was like panic stricken when they took me off of Klonopin, because you can't be in rehab and be on Klonopin. But I haven't had any issues with the results of these wonderful steps I've been able to work.
Yeah. So your big breakthrough acting role was in Jerry Maguire, Bob Sugar. Everybody knows Bob Sugar, right?
First movie.
And it's an unbelievable movie. I saw it recently, holds up so well. I mean, it's great. And you said afterwards, Tom Cruise is the coolest person you've ever met.
He's not of this earth. He's like, if Dale Carnegie came out of a spaceship, had to win friends and influence people. I just found him to be like a great man's man, cool, so other-minded, how everyone else on the set was doing and how their job could be easier. Like, I used to not hang up my clothes when I was done with work. I would just take them off and just put them on a chair or whatever. And the makeup lady the wardrobe woman came up to me when I was sitting with Tom, and she said something about it, like, could you hang up your clothes? And I went to Tom like, can you believe this lady? And then Tom leads into me and goes, these girls, they bust their ass. They bust their ass.
That's a good Tom Cruise too.
And I was like, okay, I'm hanging up my clothes. You think about it, like, my call's at 9 a.m. They've been there since 5 a.m., like tagging everything and hanging everything up. And, they got some sweaty idiot throwing his suit on the ground. So yeah, he was incredible. Okay. So the audition scene in Jerry Maguire was the firing scene. And whenever I practiced it, I always sat myself so I was looking down at you somehow. Like, even if you were taller than me, everything was on like a downward dots coming out of my eyes. And so that's how I did it. And then when we filmed it at this restaurant on Melrose, I was in like this Edith Ann chair. I'm like, I came here to fire you, Jerry. I felt like an idiot. And then we did 2 takes, and Tom goes, are you okay? Like Tom Cruise asked me if I'm okay. I go, when I auditioned, the chair was taller and I felt more important. And he goes, Cameron, he's got to have a taller chair. And then they just reeled in, like, they just put all these pads under my ass. And all of a sudden I'm like, I came here to fire. Then I was like, I was in the game.
Yeah, right.
He goes, don't ever underestimate how important everything is.
Wow.
He's
I mean, how?
He's the best.
That's so good to hear.
I'm sorry to keep interrupting, Sue, but
yeah,
an underrated actor. If you watch Vanilla Sky, do you know how hard it is to act a little crazy? Little. So only your best friend thinks maybe you're going crazy? That's tough to do. He's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, how fortuitous for you for it to be your first film and not just like a couple of lines. I mean, it was a big role.
Yeah.
And to have someone like that, kind of teach you some of the ropes, It could have been a really horrible experience.
My first movie was like James Woods. I'd be yelling at everybody,
Yeah. Right.
It's crazy. Some guys are just like, holy smokes, you can't believe people act like I'm not, it is what it is. But also, I don't even know if you guys know how I got that movie. I auditioned to be the football player played by Jerry O'Connell, and I just blew the Southern accent that day. I just could not get it out of my mouth. And then they said, you want to go in and look at the sides to play the male nanny? I go, yeah, I'll do anything in this movie. So the male nanny has a scene, Brad DeLuiso, I think, played it. And he's got a scene where he goes, I want you to use this. And you think he's going to hand Tom a condom, but he hands him a cassette. It was a jazz cassette of Miles Davis. I had that cassette. So what was written in the script by Cameron Crowe, like, these are 2 masters of jazz, freeform, the masters of their domain, Cannonball Adderley and his brother. I knew every musician because being that approval addict and trying to fill the cup for when I met some girl that was into jazz, I knew all the musicians on that cassette because I had it. So they thought I was like a savant. I go in the hallway, and 2 minutes later I come out. I'm like, there's like 2 pages just going on and on about all the musicians. I'm like, no, I got it. And they just thought I was like a savant. And then when I was done, everything was really quiet. I was in Jim Brooks's office, and Richard Sakai and Jim Brooks and Cameron Crowe, and everybody's standing around and nobody spoke. And it was very weird. And then Jim Brooks just goes, he's looking at the floor. He goes, how about sugar? And everybody just goes, yeah. Like nobody wanted to say it because I found out after the fact, they already had an offer out to Owen Wilson because he did Bottle Rocket with Jim Brooks and Richard Sakai. So they had to rescind his offer. It never happens in Hollywood. Like it's impossible. I had pro wrestler hair. I looked like Bret Hart from the Hart Foundation in a suit. It was nuts.
But how ironic that an impressionist didn't nail the Southern accent.
And thank God I didn't. It is weird. And I was doing, you know what I was doing? I was the whole time auditioning at home before I went in, I was just doing Anthony Clark.
Oh God.
I was like, I don't fucking believe it. I got good flash. Like I was just doing Anthony Clark, who, by the way, I was with when I found out I got Saturday Night Live. We were doing a college in North Carolina together, 𝐷𝐷𝐵 College, and we were literally staying in a Motel 6 alongside a highway with just trucks roaring by. It was the worst. And I go, I'm going to go take a nap. We've been traveling all day. And Anthony goes, I'm going to go for a swim. And he takes out this long net and he's cleaning out the pool with the net. He's got his shirt off. And, Anthony's like a beanpole, hilarious. So I go up to my room to take a nap. The phone rings at this Motel 6 in 𝐷𝐷𝐵, North Carolina. I'm like, hello? And it's my agent and my manager. And I'm like, immediately, my parents have died in a car crash, right? That's what. And they go, how they found me, I don't know. But they're like, you got it. You got Saturday Night Live. And I was like, holy shit. I got to call you guys back. I hang up the phone. I go back down to the pool. And Tony's cleaning the pool. And I go, Tony, I just got Saturday Night Live. And he looks at me. He goes, well, there goes that nap.
Wow, that's great.
Tony's the best.
So I want to ask you about the big thing that you've talked about lately, which is recovery and rehab. And, I'm wondering when you actually discovered the drug Adderall and what does it do for you?
Well, eventually it's supposed to help you focus. So that was the lie I told myself. It would really help me focus on my job, which was the radio show at the time. And eventually, within about a year, it helped me focus on getting more Adderall at all costs. It really helped me focus on getting more. It ran me down. I was, it was about 2016. I had a running mate that I'll leave out of this story. And I think part of it was jealousy that this person got to feel something, a little resentment towards that person. So I did it. A lot of my using is at you. I like to use at people. I'll show you. So then I did it, loved it. And then like everything else, look, Mase, if it feels good, I will turn it into an addiction, whether it's booze, NyQuil, weed, sex, love bombing people, manipulation. I've made fishing an addiction. I'm not kidding. Like I've gone in everything that brings me pleasure. I will overflow that cup until the rest of the things in that life get affected by it. And it just absolutely ran me. I love pills. I'm a pill Billy. I don't even swallow them. I crunch that shit up and snort them and swallow them. I double down. I love that shit. And I was the last person to know my life was a mess. When I walked into my intervention, I was truly surprised. Like it is a surprise party, an intervention. Like everybody you love is in one. It really is a surprise party. You walk into a room and everybody that loves you is in a room. You're like, hey, your first thing, hey, oh no. And you turn into like a demon. You're yelling at your grandma. You fucking bitch. You lied to me. That's your ass. I will never forget that shit. You bitch. You old bitch. You become a fucking ghoul. But it was a fast intervention. Like 8 minutes in, I blurted out like, I'm going. Because I'm an approval addict. And the fastest way for me to get a room full of people shaking their heads no and looking miserable to being happy with me again was just to agree to go. But I kind of wanted to go anyway because I kept so many secrets. I kept the fact that I wanted to get well a secret. I knew I was, in layman's terms, I knew I was fucked. I never had, you hear about people going like, oh, I'm not going to use tomorrow. And then I wound up using tomorrow. I never had the thought I'm not going to use tomorrow because I knew I couldn't get out of bed without it. Because when you run out of Adderall, you can't open your eyes. You just felt like a fucking sleepy guy.
Wow. So when you went to rehab, like first day there, are you like, holy shit, I don't know if I can do this? Like,
I still felt, it's funny, like your whole life as an addict, alcoholic, you just feel apart from always. You're always on the outside looking in. And even in rehab, as you're standing in line for medication in your slippers with sweatpants with no drawstring so you can't hang yourself, you're still looking all like, wow, these guys are losers. I'm like, these guys are fucking losers,
well,
man.
Wasn't your roommate, I mean, if I think this is right,
Armando.
He was a convicted murderer, is that right?
He lit his drug dealer's house on fire and killed him. He was an arsonist. His name was Armando, and if you didn't enroll the R's, he corrected you. Because I remember talking about the first day of rehab. The second day when I woke up, there's all these Mexican guys at a table with their Bibles open. It's like 5 a.m. I just got up to pee. I just planned on sleeping late. I used it like Club Med, I thought. And they're like, hey, what's up, homie? What's up? And I go, hey. And I just remember the one guy's name. I go, good morning, Armando. And he goes, get it right, fool, because that's not my fucking name. It's Armando. So in my stand-up, I go, hey, sorry. You don't realize you were a fucking asshole. Forgive me, Armando. Yeah, he was my roommate, and there was I just thought it was cruel that there was, between our twin beds, there was a nightstand with a candle on it between me and an arsonist. That's true. But I just started going like, I just started writing little stupid shit down when I was in there. Like, because Sue, as a comic, you're like, I'm going to get so much material out of this.
Yeah, of course.
I'm going to hang out. I'm going to hang out in rehab just for the material, not realizing I was an absolute unmanageable wreck of a boy.
But I love that idea of you are this person and the denial. And I wanted to, I don't know if you remember, I don't even know if Colin Quinn ever said this on stage, but Colin Quinn, was always pretty svelte. And then he quit smoking and he gained a shitload of weight. I mean, he was kind of unrecognizable. And he still did not consider himself fat. And he was like, and I remember him, like, he was telling a story about, like, being, like, next to someone who was really, like, fat. And the guy was looking at him like, hey, you and I, And he said, no, I'm just visiting. I'm not a fat guy.
By the way, Colin's my favorite impression to do.
Yes.
Well, I know you probably think I'm a little overweight, but it's all right. Probably the suit, big and
I don't know if you know, Mase knows it. When I got sober, I gained a lot. I was up around 240.
Oof. Yeah.
I was coaching wrestling and fighting while on speed. I lived in Malibu. I would wake up, get a paddle board, and I would go paddle and fish for my lunch. If I caught it, I had lunch. If not, whatever. Then I went to wrestling practice. Then I'd stay up all night. It's a lot of calorie burning. So then I get sober and I go to meetings every day where they serve cake. So I'm doing 3 meetings a day, just sitting there like, happy birthday to, and my body just went, bah. And so I'm no stranger to getting fat quickly. I do remember Fat Colin. It was adorable. Another guy, another underrated superstar.
Oh, brilliant comedian.
I love it when he goes, he's got punchlines that, like, I feel like I'm the only one that think they're funny. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you see him at Caroline's and he would just fucking bomb for 20 minutes, nothing. And I'm in the back like, this is the most brilliant shit I've ever heard. Like Mob Guy, when they stole like a Virgin Mary painting out of Rikers Island, but they only knew it because one of the mob guys caught like it was a fake. And he goes, I love that, a mob guy from the Genovese family's on his knees, looks up and goes, authentic. Authentic. God damn, I love Colin. He's the guy that told me once when I had him on my podcast, I go, I'm just thinking aloud. And he goes, that's also called talking.
Well, my greatest experience with Colin, I was on Star Search. I did the first episode of that season, and I was up against John Mulrooney, and a lot of people did not like John Mulrooney, but all the producers thought John was going to win the whole thing, and I beat him the first show, so he was gone.
I remember watching.
And Colin came. I bumped into Colin we would do. I was living in New York, so I bumped into him in Central Park. And he comes over to me and he says, Kolinsky, that's great. You beat Maroney. I mean, he couldn't have been happier. It was great.
And I remember watching it because you understand, Mase, like if there was a sports book on who was going to win that particular matchup of Star Search, you got to go like Rams Patriots. Like it was. There's no way Kolinsky was going to... Mulroney he was a monster.
Yeah.
Fucking joke. You got him.
You know why he lost? He lost because he didn't go to the rehearsal. So he didn't do his act. We had to do our act for the producers to determine who was going to go on first, I guess. So they just gave me the first slot. And we had some material that overlapped. It was about working out. And so my jokes were very funny. When he came on, they had already heard funny workout jokes. And he dressed, he was a blue collar guy. He was a, t-shirt jeans guy.
But he put on that
he had that weird, like Star Trek, big shoulder pad suit.
Yeah.
And he was very uncomfortable on stage. And he was in his head.
I think you drove him out of the business. He wound up doing like radio in like upstate New York, right?
Hey, radio. There's nothing wrong with doing radio.
No. For you, it's great.
Yeah. For me, it's great. Exactly.
Buddy, let me tell you, I learned doing radio. There's a marathon and then there's something that's deeper than a marathon. And I learned, I lasted 3.5 years, but God diggity, look, I'm a comic. I want to work really hard once in a while. And then leave me the fuck alone. I like to lay in bed and watch old Westerns with my stupid dogs. Me and Jeannie we walk the dogs in a little stroller. We set them down. We see the kids decide, like, I got it's good being me.
Yeah.
But when you ask me to do something every day, and more importantly, when a program director who really probably should not have a job, like when they start telling you content,
yes,
is the ulcer of all ulcers. Like,
if they were still telling me content, I would have quit a long time ago. Thankfully, I don't get any of that feedback. In fact, you'll like this, Jay. We don't even really have a program director. It's unbelievable. Like, there's no PD.
No state. Once you decide the format, like if you're going to play mariachi music, once you make that decision, you no longer need a program director. You just directed it.
Yes.
But you know what I would get? I would get things that were intangible. Like, I'd have these meetings afterwards. Aside from my first meeting, Don Martin goes, my man.
Don Martin, my man.
The yellow, God bless him. He hired me.
Yeah.
Took out a yellow legal pad. He goes, in the first hour, you said 32 times. And I was like, oh my God. But then you get things like, we just want you to work on your passion. Like, if you know anything about me, I'm pretty fucking fired up about shit. When somebody puts that in your gears, the gears they never get calibrated right again.
Right.
Like, your passion's here, but we would love it if you came in with passion here.
Well, that's when I'm flipping around the dial, that's all I listen for. I listen for energy. Like, oh, they've got energy. Oh, they don't have energy. I want the guys with energy. So people joke about my coffee consumption. I drink 2 quad espresso. By the way, I mean, I am like you. Affirmation is like oxygen for me. But I drink so much coffee to get that high energy level. So, and you had it. You had it. You have that energy level.
You should try Adderall, Mase. You don't need coffee.
Yeah, I know. I was just thinking the same thing. So here you are. You're famous. Jeanie Buss is famous. How did you guys meet? How did you wind up together? Describe that sort of story.
Jeanie was a guest on the radio show. I interviewed her over the phone. I completely imagined that we had chemistry. There's a line in one of my big books that I read. It says, "Did we overvalue ourselves?" Story of my life. And so I just thought we vibed, and I'm like, there's something here. So then I DM'd her on Twitter and said, you should do my podcast. It's control, and she agreed. And I sent her flowers, like, thanks for going on the radio show. And then I left my marriage. So I was staying in a hotel, and I had to go get her at the elevator when she came off the hotel. When she came off the elevator, I had to go get her. And I'll never forget, when she came off the elevator, it was slow motion. It was like an 80s ski movie. Like I still remember it was a green background with little gold, the Beverly Hills Hotel. And I remember the carpet. It was just, I've been waiting for this person my whole life. And she had a very different first impression. I found out after the fact. She came to see me at the Improv shortly after that with Linda Rambis. And I hate having things in my pockets on stage or ever. Like, if I sit down, everything comes out. It's just my pockets are just to transport things somewhere else. So I go up at the Improv and I just pull out like a thing of chewing tobacco and I put it on the piano and I take my keys out. I put it in my wallet, everything little by little. Also, like a little life hack, get the audience on your time. He remembers looking at me, and her exact words are, "Oh, he's a mess." She was at my intervention. So if life was fair, I certainly would not still be with her. And I thought she did the intervention. So when I was packing for it was my agent. When I was packing for rehab, she was in my bedroom, and I was so pissed off. How could you betray me? But I didn't say anything. I angry packed. And I do this on stage too, but it really happened. I'm just staring at her with like anger, hatred in my eyes. And I never took my eyes off her as I'm shoving stuff into her backpack. And then Mase, I get to rehab. All I had was 14 pairs of socks. Because I never learned.
Angry packing. I like that. Angry packing.
I just kept and then I had to call her. Like, could you come bring me pants? But she's the greatest thing that ever happened to me. This is my third and final marriage. And I can thank the other two for leading me exactly here. Like the longer you live, the longer you realize, like, oh, nothing was wasted. Nothing was wasted. Like that person made me this person to that person. It's like in the cartoon when the sheepdog's going to walk up the construction site, and then at the last second, the beam comes up and carries them to the other. Like that's my whole life.
Yeah.
My whole life's like that.
I
That's
love that.
beautiful.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah, that is. So does Jeanie ever say, hey, should we trade this guy? Should we sign that guy? Should we? Do you get any of that sort of questioning?
No, but I'll get like this is kind of in the works. I'll get like when things are when the pitchers aren't throwing in the bullpen, but they're kind of getting up and moving shit around. I'll get that little update. And my job is to go, because of my addiction, I had a lot of opinions and ideas on how everybody else could be better.
Yeah.
Now, as a 53-year-old sober man, I get to go, huh.
You know, one of the things that I really, I think I want to commend you for, and I think it makes a huge difference in people's lives, is that you talk about your use of drugs and your rehab experience. And I think for a lot of people, it's funny and it makes everybody laugh and all that stuff. But I think it also makes people who've been in the same situation, makes them feel less alone. Do you ever get that sense?
Well, I get a lot of feedback about it. And it's my reaction to that is kind of bewilderment. Like, what else would we talk about? Like, I was a dead man walking. And I've been brought back to life. If you've been shipwrecked, when you see people on the island, you're gonna go, did you? So that's really all it is with me. I was shipwrecked. You gotta understand, like, it is, I lost. And anybody that's ever walked into a room and said, hey man, I need help, like, you lost. I've never been arrested. I never overdosed. I was never hospitalized, but I lost, and I could walk. I love speaking in prisons, and I tell the guys that up front. Like, I have no idea what it's like to be incarcerated, but I lost. Mm-hmm. We call that bottom envy, where you see somebody in the rooms, like, I was smoking crack, I was homeless, like, oh, I wasn't that bad. Like, no, I was exactly as bad as I needed to be to get to start building a better beast.
Well, it's great to see you doing well. It's great to see you healthy and happy and all that stuff. This has been great, man. Fun catching up. Your personal story is amazing. I love it. I appreciate you coming on to share it, man. And I will see you at Lakers opening night.
Oh, yeah, buddy. And Kolinsky, the best to see you.
Oh, so great to see you, Jay.
My man. See you guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jay. There you have it. There is Jay Mohr joining us. Great guy. Known him forever and ever. Yes, I did have a fake one-sided feud with Jay at one point, but it's all been fixed.
I know him since he's very young, and he's a changed man, and I love it because he's so different than he was when he was on our radio show.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
He's cocky,
Yeah.
He's a great, great guy, and I really tip my hat to him.
So I've never told this story, Sue, but in 1992, my dad had a heavy drinking problem. And so I was the one that planned the intervention for my dad. And so I understood a lot of what he was. My dad was so pissed off. And I'm sure that when he was leaving for rehab, he was angry packing. I love that, angry packing. But yeah, it's a weird experience, but my dad was so pissed off afterwards. It worked out and he got sober. He wouldn't call it sober. He would say, I stopped drinking. But yeah,
it wasn't,
it's a hard experience.
It didn't change him the way it changed Jay. Cause I know you did. Was he a changed man? Or
Yes.
he just stopped drinking?
No, he was a changed man. He became a very different person after he stopped drinking. My dad was a beer drinker. He would drink a case of beer a day. I was like, oh God. You know what my first thought was? So many calories.
Yeah.
So many calories
Yeah.
to drink a case of beer. But no, when he cleaned up, he became a normal, nice guy.
Oh,
So,
okay. I never heard
yeah.
that side of it. Okay.
Yeah. He was
Good.
a crazy son of a bitch when he was young.
Mm.
Yeah, he was. But he needed rehab. This has been fun. Thanks very much to Jay Mohr. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for listening. We appreciate all you guys, and we will see you next time on the Culture Pop Podcast.